I'm John Manier from AccuSlice. This video will be part 4 of the video series on the development of the new automated AccuSlice system. In part 3 of this video series, we described the machining of the various components that were used to assemble the system. In this video, I'll be describing the installation of the automated AccuSlice system onto my Hammer Model 4400 bandsaw. I'll also describe the key features of the system. Future videos will describe the development of the electronics console and the software to make the system fully automated and operational. The hardware shown here is nearly complete. There may be some minor changes or modifications to some of the components, or some additional parts may need to be added as we continue to develop and test the system. The system weighs in excess of 50 pounds. I'm using a roller table to position the table for attachment to the bandsaw. I'm actually building 2 of these systems. This first model will be installed in the Hammer Model N4400 bandsaw, which uses a 15mm miter bar. A second model was also built, which can be used on bandsaws with a standard 3/4 inch miter bar. It is recommended that the front table extensions be installed in the bandsaw before the system is installed. These give additional support to the index table to ensure that it will not tilt or fall off the bandsaw table. The design and installation of these front table extensions were described in the previous 2 videos on the heavy-duty AccuSlice system. Next, I will describe the installation of the automated AccuSlice system onto this Hammer Model N4400 bandsaw. First, I'll describe the installation of the system onto the bandsaw table. Afterwards, I'll describe some of its main features. There are 4 main steps involved in the installation of the automated AccuSlice system onto the bandsaw. The first step involves moving the system onto the bandsaw table and then screwing the miter bar into the miter bar slot on the bandsaw. The second step involves putting the legs on and leveling the system so that the table slides smoothly. Next, the rail needs to be installed, and the final step, installing the carriage. But before I do that, the first thing is to set up the bandsaw to make sure it's ready for the installation. And that involves making sure that the table is level and that the table is perpendicular to the bandsaw blade. So the first thing I've done is I made sure that the bandsaw table is perfectly perpendicular to the bandsaw blade. And if it's not perpendicular, you need to adjust the plate on the bandsaw to tilt it to get it accurately set up. It might also be advantageous to make sure your bandsaw table is level. So I've actually leveled my table. I've adjusted the feet on the bottom of the bandsaw to make the table perfectly level, both in the X and the Y positions. This will just make it much easier to adjust the legs on the system later when I do the installation of the legs onto the automated AccuSlice system. So now we're ready to actually attach the system to the bandsaw and start the installation. So I'm now ready to move the entire automated AccuSlice system onto the bandsaw table and attach the miter bar to the miter bar slot on the bandsaw. Now, I've already pre-drilled my holes in my table, which I did for the previous heavy-duty AccuSlice system. So the procedure for drilling and tapping these holes is shown in the 2 videos on the heavy-duty AccuSlice system. One video on the Hammer N4400 bandsaw, and the second video on the Laguna bandsaw with a 3/4 inch wide miter bar slot. But that's just a matter of drilling the holes and then using a hand tap to tap the holes to the proper screw size. And I have my screws all set and ready to go, and now I need to position the system onto the bandsaw and screw it into the table. Now this system is heavy, so I'm trying to be careful on moving it over and then installing it. Now it's still resting on my cart here, which I probably want to leave it on there until I get the legs installed. Get this rail out of the way. So I got my holes aligned, so let me attach my screws. I have my table all set up, but before I pull out my cart, I think I want to put the legs on just to make sure it doesn't fall, because there's a lot of weight on this outside edge of the table. So let me just set those legs in place to before I pull the cart out. Now with those front legs pulled out, a little more comfortable removing this carriage. And now I can go ahead and attach the, tighten up the screws on the miter bar. They're screwed down tight so this miter bar is actually below the surface of the table. I installed all 4 legs onto the system in a previous step as I was installing the system onto the bandsaw, just to make sure, number one, it didn't tilt off the table, and also to support this miter bar, because the miter bar is pretty thin back here, and I was concerned about it being warping with the excess weight on it. So I did put all 4 legs on the system just to make sure nothing slipped or fell on me. And I locked them in place. There's set screws on the top of each of these to lock them in place. Now each of these legs is adjustable. First of all at the top, and there's 2 screws at the top that hold this insert in place, and this insert has holes in it. You can adjust it to the height. So I try and get this close at the bottom is close to the floor, and then screw them in place, and then do the final adjustment on the bottom. So I actually have the table a little above the bandsaw table right now, so it slides pretty smoothly. But I want to get it closer. The idea is to have the table real close and maybe just slightly touching the table, but clearance of 5/10,000 of an inch at the most, so that when you activate the mag jig clamps, it doesn't pull it down and twist it. So I want to get it close. So it's a matter of adjusting all 4 legs, and this takes some time because you want to get it level here and also back here. It just takes time. So I'm using a 5/8 inch wrench to adjust each of the legs. So I start back here at the front, and actually gonna lower it a little bit. Now I'm real close on this side. Let me lower the other side. And actually you can look under the table and actually see, the plate, how close it is, both here and back here. Okay, now I can see that the back legs are too high, so the back legs need to be lowered. Okay, that took quite a while to get those adjusted. It usually takes half an hour or more to get those perfectly aligned. But I aligned it, and I had a slight amount of friction on the table, and I backed it off of here. So this slides nice and smoothly now. So that completes the installation and leveling of the system. And as I mentioned before, you can use a level, because I leveled my table, so this table should be level also, which is it's right on. So that's a good way to level it. Just make sure the table's level and this is the same level. And I need a smaller level to do this, but that's good. I actually could look underneath and see light, between the front of the table and the back of the table. So it's real good. Just another view of the system to show the movement of the system. Just to show the movement from all the way out to all the way in. So next I'm installing my 6-foot rail. And there's 2 index pins on here that line up with 2 holes in the rail. And then 3 holes for the attachment of the 4 to 20 thread per inch screws. You can use other size rails for the system. The system is really designed for at least a 6-foot rail. I can put extensions on it though to get longer boards. The next step is installing the AccuSlice 2 carriage. Now the one change in design we made in this system is we moved this rail in 3/4 of an inch. And it gives me a lip here on the front of my index table. And my AccuSlice 2 carriage has brushes that slide along there to keep the dust from getting into the roller bearings. I remove the handles, I don't need the handles anymore. And then I have 2 spacers and 2 screws that mate this plate to the AccuSlice 2 carriage. And that completes the installation of the system. This indexing system is what moves the carriage back and forth. Next, I want to describe the features that were designed into this new version of the automated AccuSlice system. First of all, the system is big and heavy. It weighs over 50 pounds. This was obvious when I was installing it. I had to be very careful that it didn't fall on me or flip. So it is a little bit cumbersome and heavy as far as installation. But by being big and heavy, it's designed for cutting heavier and longer boards. Now, there's 2 models being designed. This model was designed with a 15mm guide bar for the Hammer N4400 bandsaws. And we have another model with a 3/4 inch miter bar, which is designed for Laguna and most of the other American-made bandsaws that have 3/4 inch miter bars. Both the back plate and the front plate are constructed from 3/8 inch thick aluminum, and both of these tables are 48 inches long. This back plate is 4 inches wide, and this front plate is 10 inches wide. The guide bars are much larger in our standard system. These are 16mm wide, and the linear bearings are also 16mm wide. We use 2 linear bearings on this front plate and a single linear bearing on the back plate. And at the back here is the locking mechanism to lock the system in place. One of the main features of this new automated AccuSlice system is this new linear drive system. This is much heavier and stronger than our previous system. In addition, the ball screw is covered with this thin metal plate, so there's no chance of sawdust getting in there to contaminate it. But it is heavier and much stronger than our previous system. This ball screw is 4.5 foot long, so it enables the cutting of boards up to probably 42 inches long. Next, we designed a system with 2 linear indexing systems, 1 in each end of the system. Our previous system had a single drive system in the middle, and that just had the chance of things twisting from one end to the other. We have these 2 systems on here. They'll be synchronized, so they'll go in evenly at the same time, so that should eliminate any possibility of twist in the system, so it should be more accurate. The system uses 3 stepper motors with feedback. So these have feedback, unlike our original system that didn't have feedback. By having this feedback, there's no chance of you missing a step, so it'll be more accurate in positioning the system. I'll also be investigating the use of servo motors instead of the stepper motors if we think more power is required. The system uses 4 support legs to enable the index table to slide smoothly across the bandsaw table. These legs support the table and remove the weight from the bandsaw table. This enables the slicing of longer and heavier boards. It also enables the smooth movement of the index table to get accurate board thicknesses. The system uses 2 heavy-duty electromagnets. These are rectangular electromagnets. They're about 4 inches long, 1 inch wide, and there's 2 of them underneath this supporting bar which covers them to minimize sawdust getting in there. Each of these magnets is capable of handling 200 pounds of holding force. And these should minimize or eliminate any vibration of the system as you're cutting the boards. The system right now is a single Hall sensor at the end of the linear ball screw. And the purpose of this Hall sensor is to sense the end of the movement of the carriage so it doesn't ride past the end of the carriage. So right now I have a single Hall sensor on this end of the linear ball screw. I may add one at the other end of the ball screw. I'll see if I need it. Also, I might also consider adding either a Hall ball screw or some sort of sensor on the indexer to sense the position of the indexers. So I'll see how that goes as I continue to design and develop the system. The system uses a heavy-duty 7/8" square front support bar that attaches to the guide bars to hold the system in position. A minimum 6-foot rail is recommended with the system, but you could use a longer rail or extension rails to cut longer boards. And this rail was indexed in 3/4 of an inch from the front of the AccuSlice index table. And this just gives you a flat surface here in which a brush on my carriage rides to keep sawdust from getting into the roller bearings. Just keeps the roller bearings cleaner. The system is designed to use the standard AccuSled 2 carriage, either the 30-inch carriage or the 18-inch carriage. A variety of L-bracket supports are available to cut different thicknesses of boards. Well, that completes this video on the installation of the automated AccuSlice system on the bandsaw and the description of its features. I'll be next ready to start on the design of the electronics console and the software to control the operation of the system. And those will be shown in future videos. So once again, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, as always, please give us a call or drop us an email. We're always looking for feedback on how we can improve the system and make it better and maybe incorporate some new features. So again, thank you for support.